Hey, this is Terry Funk, and this is the Awesome Wrestling Show. You guys tune in, listen, pay attention.
Produced by the Cleveland Sound Radio Network, here is the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, hosted by Glenn Moore and Steve Guy.
Welcome. This is Awesome Wrestling Show here on CLVSound.com. Also, this is AwesomeWrestlingShow.com. Head over to our website. All our shows, interviews, news stories are all up there on the site. And this week we have a very, very special guest, a man that you know in WWE, a former WWE superstar, a former TNA superstar. Ken Anderson will be making an appearance on the show later on down the road, as we will be talking with him about his career, his future, and possibly what is going on with TNA, departure from there. And also we'll talk to him about some other big stars that we'll get into later on as well, leaving TNA, and Bobby Roode and Eric Young. So we're talking with him later on in the show, but right now we want to get into some news tidbits of what is going on in the world of professional wrestling. I'm Glenn Moore, joined here by Steve Guy. And Steve, we had AIW had their local show here in Cleveland, Gauntlet for the Gold. A lot of great wrestling going on in Northeast Ohio. But we had two great AIW debuts on Friday.
Yeah, some international superstars bringing the flavor to AIW with Pentagon Jr. coming out from Lucha Underground, and then all the way from the UK across the pond, Zack Sabre Jr. So we got Ethan Page. Both those matches were just great. Pentagon Jr. wrestled Ray Rowe, who's, of course, in Ring of Honor. Man, both of those were just awesome. Pentagon and Ray Rowe was just non-stop hitting each other action, and it was great like that. And then Zach's match was technical, as we expected it to be, but mixed in with Ethan Page and some power moves, and overall just ended up being a fantastic wrestling match to watch.
Yeah, two great matches. And Pentagon way over the crowd.
Oh, super over.
Chance of please come back.
Vieto.
So hopefully Pentagon Jr. makes a return appearance on AIW.
Yeah, I mean, that was... It was short, but they put so much action in that match. Listen, when this comes out on DVD, if you are a wrestling fan, just buy it. Buy it from Smart Mark Video. Buy the DVD or buy the digital downloads. Not too much. It's worth it for those two matches alone.
Well, it's worth it because you're announcing, so it's worth the price right there.
That's true. It's worth that. That's also worth it.
Trying to put you over, man.
Yeah, it's worth it because I'm announcing as well.
There you go.
No word yet if they'll keep the unexpected second intermission in there due to powder being all over the mat.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun to be in that ring, though.
Yeah,
got in there. Pentagon Jr.'s like, hey, kind of brushed myself, and I think it was Jake in there at the time. Hey, get out of the way. We knew he's going to take off. It's going to be good. And had a little fun with Zach and Ethan, going back and forth, calling out the time limit for the match.
Yeah, it was
a little comedic spot for us there.
Overall, a good night. AIWrestling.com is the website. So if you're in the Cleveland area or even the tri-state area, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, even New York, it's worth the drive to check out AIW and their shows. AI Wrestling, they have a show coming up. Forgot about Dre. Booker T, Hall of Famer, will be in attendance. As well as other Grado making an appearance. Yeah, so look for that coming up for AIWrestling.com. So let's get into news. Some big news going on, and we're going to be talking with Ken Anderson, and he's making a lot of headlines with with what he said. But two TNA guys, two staples of TNA, leaving, making their departures. Their future unknown if they're going to be making obviously the indie scene overseas. But maybe WB NXT. Bobby Roode. I like where the announcers, they call him Bobby Roode because they stretch it out and they forget. They don't forget, but it sounds like they're saying Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode and Eric Young, two guys in their upper 30s, leaving TNA for various reasons. There's been rumored for money issues, the way the company is being run right now. But could they possibly be the new members of NXT in the coming weeks or months?
They could. I mean, you could see them in a Samoa Joe type role.
Yeah.
Helping out there. I don't know. It'll be interesting. But they also are at that point where, and they've got enough of a name, you could see them, maybe they go to Japan to replace all the Bullet Club guys that left.
Yeah.
Because they know and have worked with a lot of the guys that are still over there doing that. Or Ring of Honor seems to be where a lot of TNA stars go to. But it'll be interesting. I mean, Bobby Roode's 39, like you said, upper 30s.
Yeah.
Eric Young, 36. It's not young anymore. It's not like they're going to hop in. It's not going to be an AJ Styles situation.
No, they're definitely not going to be premiering, making a surprise appearance on WWE programming on Raw or SmackDown. It's going to be probably NXT if they want to. But, now with Ring of Honor getting money and overseas spending money for guys and the indies, they can, wrestle twice a week and have the indie scene and go to overseas as well. I mean, they can be well off, make money, and not be under contract with a company. And they can probably go to NXT and still make indie rounds and still do indie appearances and make money on that, but also, go to NXT tapings, which is only a couple of days, a month. They tape for the whole month in a week. They can do that too and still be able to have the freedom of going wherever they want. So they're two big names, two names that if you're Bobby Roode I think is a little bit more, they're both well known, but if you're not a hardcore, if you haven't watched TNA, it's not like, oh my God, like I know these guys. You're not going to really know who they are.
But Bobby Roode, I mean, I think he more so can go do pretty much whatever he wants because he was one of the highest paid stars there in TNA, which I don't know how much that was, but it's decent enough. I would think that, he made a pretty good living as long as he was smart with his money.
Right.
So he can probably toy around a little bit more. It sounds like from things we heard, part of Eric Young's problem was he wasn't getting to be one of those guys, and he was there for 12 years. So, maybe you do see him, again, the difference between 39 and 36 in the wrestling world, maybe kind of substantial. So, maybe Eric Young does become the guy that goes to NXT.
Yeah.
And Bobby Roode does Ring of Honor and whatever the hell else he wants to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess nobody really knows at this point, huh?
I'm sure NXT will be pursuing them just because, we talked about this numerous times on the show, the turnover for refilling NXT's roster with talent the caliber of, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Finn Balor, it's going to take a couple of years for it to replenish. So having guys like Samoa Joe, Eric Young, Bobby Roode, Austin Aries, even the James Storm when he was in NXT,
right?
Names that if you're a hardcore wrestling fan, you know who these guys are. Fill in. They're veteran guys. They're not green. They know how to work, and they can also teach some of the younger guys. So we'll see how that pans out. And if you want to see these guys in NXT, let us know on Twitter at TIA Wrestling. On Twitter, and also we're on Facebook as well. So let us know what you think about Bobby Roode and Eric Young and their futures. We were very, 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 very excited to have Terry Funk on the show.
We were.
But geez, that's been 5 months already? 4 months?
Yeah.
5 months ago we had him on the show.
You're a pervert.
We talked with him. Interview is on our website. ThisIsAwesomeWrestlingShow.com. I'm not sure. I think it's episode number 55 is the episode.
That far back?
Yeah, we're on 76 right now.
Wow.
So I think it's 55. I will look that up right now. But we had Terry Funk on the show, and he talked about him liking Dean Ambrose, a wrestler that he liked. Episode number 55. So 21 episodes ago was Terry Funk. So interview is up on our website, iTunes, Stitcher, everything, Libsyn. But he talked about, we asked him, what superstar now do you enjoy watching? And he said Dean Ambrose.
Dean Ambrose, yeah.
Had to work on his punches, he said. But he enjoyed Dean Ambrose. And on Raw, if you watch Raw and you saw Ambrose at a bar in Philly somewhere, and you saw Terry Funk make a WWE return in 2016, and he gave his chainsaw from his Chainsaw Charlie gimmick to Dean Ambrose, and then Ambrose continued to cut up the table of the bar. But it was great to see Terry Funk back on Raw. See him on wrestling again. It was great.
Cutting a little promo.
It's terrific.
Just going off and spewing nonsense.
Which is what he's
perfect
at.
Yeah, it's great when Dean Ambrose looks at Terry Funk, and Dean Ambrose is supposed to be just out there,
Yeah.
and Terry Funk says something. Dean Ambrose looks at him like, "What the hell are you saying?"
Yeah.
He's like, I followed all of that.
Yeah. It's terrific. It was great to see him on TV and him rambling and doing, saying whatever he want. I'm sure they give him a script, but we all know Terry doesn't like to follow a script too much. So,
Or remember it, maybe.
Yeah. So it was great to see him on WWE TV. Not sure if he would be at WrestleMania or no, even behind the scenes. I know Terry Funk would be doing some stuff like for other festivities and whatnot in Dallas that weekend. But hey, who knows? I mean, Terry Funk will make a not a WrestleMania appearance, but WB TV programming with
good
Hall of Fame or the red carpet or whatever. So, but hey, it was great to see Terry Funk on WWE TV, and also make sure to check out our interview with him. We talk about his career, talking about Jerry the King Lawler, wrestling nowadays. Wish he was more involved with WWE, and obviously him making appearances is pretty big. And the funny thing is, he said on the show that he thought the Chainsaw Charlie gimmick was stupid.
Yeah, when he gives him a chainsaw. I thought about that too.
You know what? Money's money. If they're going to throw some money for him to give a chainsaw away, you do it.
I thought that when that happened, when I watched it, like you just said, that's what was going through my mind, because you knew he was going to go give him a weapon, kind of like Mick Foley did. And I was like, he's not going to give him a chainsaw because he hated that. What's he going to give him? And then he comes back with a chainsaw. I'm like, no, Terry, you hate Chainsaw Charlie. But that's kind of who he, I guess, predominantly was in WWE. Yeah. So,
I mean, he was ECW, and around the world, he's known as Terry Funk.
Yeah.
He did wrestle in WWF as Terry Funk, but he's well known for his Chainsaw Charlie. But hey, he gets on TV, I'm all for it. Other things going on in WWE and the world of wrestling is a report came out of TMZ Sports saying that Sting will be retiring.
Yeah.
At his Hall of Fame induction speech will be his coming out party, saying that he will be retiring. But Sting made an indie appearance this past weekend, and he was interviewed, and Sting said that basically it wasn't true. So I don't think Sting is going to admit to it until it's his time.
Until it's there, yeah.
So, but I don't think Sting will be wrestling anytime soon for WWE, just because of his neck and his injury he had, and it's kind of it's sad to see a career come to an end, but it's also because I would love to see Taker versus Sting,
sure,
for a WrestleMania match, which will not be happening.
No, but 56 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness.
It's up there.
How many more matches could he have had?
Yeah.
Although he was in good shape, but still, that's, like you said, that's up there.
Yeah.
So, and that neck surgery is going to be a dangerous one, I would imagine. I would rather be able to go to, like, a WrestleCon and meet Sting and shake his hand than, the guy's in a wheelchair or in a bed for the rest of his life, and
like a Lex Luger.
Can't come to that stuff. Lex can kind of walk around here and there at least.
Yeah, that's how we saw him.
We did
in the wheelchair. Theater. We were being wheeled. Like, what do you do?
Yeah,
you stop and
hey
shake
guys.
his hand. Yeah,
very happy to be out there and see people.
Very happy, but still, it's sad.
It is
very sad. But yeah, Sting, is he going to be retiring? Is he going to be is it going to delay it more, or is his Hall of Fame speech going to get fuzzy in the room with all the tears going to be coming down? Is it going to be emotional? And so we'll see what happens. Speaking of Hall of Fame, really quick, Vader will be inducting Stan Hansen, and the New Day will be inducting the Freebirds. So we all know the New Day. That could be I was thinking of this. The New Day, they're okay. They're funny. They're great.
Yeah.
But this is all about the Freebirds. Do you think because the New Day is a comedy bit and they're funny, they're going to go maybe a little bit over the top what they should, and to induct them with their speech, or do we really want to see a serious, no-nonsense New Day when it comes to the Freebirds being inducted?
Yeah, the Hall of Fame's always a little different. It seems like people take it a bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we will see them be a bit more serious. It'll be more straightforward because it is like you said, it is all about the Freebirds. You don't want the people doing the inducting to take away from them.
Right.
And I mean, didn't Stone Cold induct Jim Ross? I think.
I believe.
I think that might be right. And if I remember right, though, like he didn't take away. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin. If that was the case, he could have taken away from Jim Ross. But the fact that we're sitting here thinking about it,
yeah,
he obviously didn't. He wasn't the show. He knew it was Jim.
Yeah.
Or JR.
Yeah, it was Stone Cold. Yeah.
So I think it can be done. The Rock inducted his dad, but that was all about his dad.
Yeah.
He didn't go off and be the Rock.
Yeah. But the New Day, they're comedy. They're funny.
Yeah.
And
those guys are funny too. That's just the closest I could think of who was funny. But not only are they funny, but they're the two of the biggest stars ever.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be okay to be funny.
Yeah.
But just not
over the top.
Yeah.
And then Vader inducting Stan Hansen. Stan Hansen was big in Japan. Vader has been big in Japan, so it's only fitting to have Vader induct Stan Hansen. And Vader, we all love. I love Vader. I know other people.
I'm going to ask you this because I know that you love him so much. Could this be the stepping stone to Vader getting into the Hall of Fame maybe next year?
Yes, please. Vader, hashtag Vader in WWE Hall of Fame 17. Let's get it started. Got to get Vader in the Hall of Fame, definitely. All these other people getting in that have, maybe not had the same kind of accolades as Vader. Whoever has a hard-on for Vader in the front office, get rid of it and put Vader in.
And maybe it's because you wait for a Sting to get in before Vader, because Sting was WCW.
Yeah.
And Vader's biggest and best days probably were WCW.
Yeah, but Kevin Nash and Scott Hall,
Yeah, but they hadn't made a name for themselves in WWE beforehand.
Yeah. Will, here's a question for you. Here's a little prop bet for you.
Uh-huh.
Will Vader induct Stan Hansen with the mask on or without the mask?
I think he inducts him without.
I think he does it with the mask.
He's going to wear the mask?
He wore the mask at the Hall of Fame ceremony a couple years. Well, yeah, in 2014, he wore the mask. Yeah, he wore the mask. So he was in attendance.
Not last year though. He didn't wear.
Was it last year already?
Last year was
15.
the one.
I'm sorry, it was 15.
Last year was the one where he was sitting down.
That was the one I'm talking about.
He didn't wear the mask then, did he?
No, he wore the mask.
Oh, he did. He did while he was sitting there. Well, he was sitting and everybody else was standing clapping for Hogan.
So. I believe so, because Hogan came out. Hogan inducted, Arnold? No, what? Who? Why was Hogan there?
I don't know.
Jeez, I'm trying to find it really quick. Here.
Oh, Macho Man. Hogan inducted Macho Man last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, Vader's. I'm trying to look really quick to see if. I believe Vader had the mask on. And Vader was the only person I paid for an autograph. Or for a picture.
Yeah, WrestleCon.
Yeah. Vader sitting. I can't find it. There's a video. People are laughing.
It was great.
Let's see. I want to say that he had the mask on. I can't find it right now, but I want to say that he had the mask. Had the mask on. So, hey, Vader's going to be there, which is great. Hopefully it leads to induction next year. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to an interview with Ken Anderson. Mr. Anderson. And we're going to talk with him. And after, we'll talk about Hulk Hogan winning his lawsuit. Kurt Angle, maybe a plan is in place for him to come back in WWE. Also, we'll talk about WWE to this day, recording on this day, in the 23rd. 15 years ago, WWE officially bought WCW. So we'll hit on that. And Zack Ryder, baby. WrestleMania, Ryder Mania.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Running wild. We'll talk about that as well. So sit back and enjoy our interview with Ken Anderson right here. This is Awesome Wrestling Show. Awesome Wrestling Show is a man that you've seen on TV for the past decade, a man that has been in the wrestling business for a very, very long time. He is a former WWE United States champion, a former two-time TNA champion, and a man that I still believe still holds maybe the Money in the Bank briefcase somewhere, somehow, still be able to cash in. A man, and I hate doing this over the phone because it's pretty awkward, and I don't know you personally, Mr. Anderson, but I don't want to do the Mr. Anderson, even though I just did, but Mr. Ken Anderson joining us on the show this week. It's a pleasure and honor to have you on the show, man.
Hey, good to be here. Thank you.
All right, we're talking about a lot going on with you right now. Obviously, you're in the news with what has transpired, and I know we can't get into details about it, but there's a viral video going around of you saying, fuck TNA at a indie event. Just your comment on that. Do you regret saying it at all? And do you wish you could take that back and maybe not have let it go viral?
No, completely taken out of context. For one, I was working a show in Scotland. It was an adult show. The crowd sort of reminds me of an ECW crowd. For a wrestling promotion that are called ICW, and it's huge in Scotland. And the crowd started chanting "fuck TNA" at the top of their lungs, 500-600 people in the audience. And I was playing the role of the heel that night. And a lot of times when I go out to the ring, I'll get a good reaction from the crowd because they know my gimmick and they want to sing along with it. They want to do it. And so I got that reaction when I went out there. And then they started chanting "fuck TNA." And so I just said, well, I don't work for them anymore. So yeah, fuck TNA.
Yeah.
But at which point they popped. And then I said, and this was, mysteriously left out in the video. First of all, whoever posted the video posted, from what I hear, so I haven't watched it, but I hear it's, about 8 seconds long or something like that.
Yeah.
That it was just, it looks like, I just go out there and it's like I'm on a soapbox. And yeah, I'm Ken Anderson. I don't work for TNA. Fuck TNA. Well, it wasn't that at all. It was, yeah, okay, yeah, you guys say fuck TNA? Yeah, fuck TNA. And then I said, but your opinion means squat to me, so fuck each and every one of you too. Of course they left all that out. So, I'm a heel and I'm, recognizable in the sense that they've seen me on TV before. So it's one of those situations where you give it to them and then you take it away from them.
Right.
And that's all I was doing, and it was a spur of the moment thing. It wasn't a planned thing. It was because the guy that I was working with, I don't know if you saw the video that's also sort of gone viral, I guess. The guy I was working with does these crazy videos where he sort of mocks his opponent. And I just told him, he showed it to me earlier in the day, and I said, it was so weird and goofy in a good way that I said, I honestly don't know how I'm going to react to that. So I'm not going to plan that. I'll just see how the crowd is. Yeah. I'll go with that. And that's the way that I like to do my promos a lot of times.
So
that's all that was. It wasn't me. And then here's the thing that I want to say. I have friends that still work for TNA that bust their asses day in and day out. And I'm not going to go and publicly disparage that company and say anything negative about it. If I have problems with TNA, I'll deal with it with management and, through more proper avenues, I guess.
Yeah.
I would say.
So this was you as your character playing the heel and, kind of gearing up the crowd and then, kind of letting them down by, not agreeing with what they were saying and kind of going after them. So, yeah. So it was more of your character.
It was pulling the rug out from underneath them.
Right.
Yeah. And people still forget that wrestling is not real. Like what we do out there, we're telling stories, we're entertaining people. Like anytime anybody says anything that's sort of a shoot, or can be taken as a shoot, they just like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't figure out. Everybody knows the deal. Everybody knows that what wrestling is. But it's like we still forget sometimes. And I guess that's a good thing, in a sense, because we want people to suspend their disbelief. But, yeah, to me, it was disappointing that, you know, it was a clear case for me that, you know, somebody decided, hey, this will look, and it does. I mean, it does. If you look at that video just by itself, it looks like I'm just a pissed off, disgruntled ex-employee.
Yeah.
It's double douchey, right? Because one, it misleads us thinking that you're just bashing the X company, and then on top of that, it doesn't do you justice because it misses the whole heel persona. It looks like now you're pandering to the crowd instead.
Right. And what also is, I mean, if I'm going to go publicly, you know, it's not good for any future employees or employers. So, well, what happens when we fire them? Because everybody gets fired eventually, right? And one's going to disparage us, is going to bury us.
Yeah.
So I'm just not into that.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point in my life I was, but I'm 40 years old now. I'm old. I've learned a thing or two.
You brought up a fun, interesting thing that I kind of want to ask you because it's a little bit related on topic. Have you been paying attention to Hogan and Gawker at all?
Just a little tiny bit. I actually don't read any. I don't read any web like dirt sheets or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I just from what I gathered from like friends who do, a lot of my wrestling friends pay attention to that stuff religiously. And so I heard something about how he said, you know, I guess the thing that stands out in my head was that Hogan said that Hulk Hogan has a 10-inch penis, but Terry Bollea does not.
Yes, that's kind of where I was going with it, because you talked about how, you know, people forget, hey, wrestling, we're still this character, but then we have a real life, and it almost made me, it made me think of that immediately, like, oh yeah, I guess maybe he did have a point there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he did have a point. I'm not sure that I would have used that analogy.
Well, as Mr. I mean, you use your name with TNA, and you're Mr. Kennedy in WWE. Now, is there something that your character maybe has as your character that you don't have as your personal life, or is what you see what you get kind of, you know, not the same as Hulk Hogan?
I think a lot of people that I meet, I try to remain as humble as I can be, and I've always treated everybody equally. My parents, my grandparents, who raised me, always told me to treat everybody equally, and so I've always tried to I treat everybody the same, and I don't like to think that I have a giant ego.
Yeah.
But my character does. My character does have that. So I think a lot of times I'll meet people for the first time, and especially like I've been doing a lot of independent stuff overseas in the UK, Australia, and I'll meet these people that I'm wrestling with now that maybe grew up watching, or they were young, you know, and not in the business when I was on WWE TV, or, you know, just the last couple of years, or whatever, the last 10 years. And they'll say, like, wow, I thought you were going to be a total dick. And, you know.
They don't expect you to walk around with a microphone coming down from everywhere, do they?
I think so. I get that a lot. I'll be somewhere eating at a restaurant, and somebody will recognize me and say, like, hey, man, they'll, like, look up at the ceiling, like, where's your microphone?
Do you almost wish
there's a little guy up there, and he's going to pull a ceiling tile back in a minute or two, and I'll drop one down.
Do you almost wish you didn't come up with that because of reasons like that?
No, you know what? It's part of the deal. And I remember even when I first started at WWE, a lot of I would walk backstage at WWE, and pretty much all the boys and all of the people that worked on the crew, almost everybody that I walked by would do it. Hey, mister! And at first it's flattering, you know, and then it's like, I'm not going to be a dick and kind of shrug it off. So it's like, I laugh about it, but inside I'm going, I got it. Yep. Right. Yeah. I say my name twice. But look, I would rather have that than have them say, you know, who are you? Or, I don't remember your name. Yeah. At least they remember it. So I'm happy about that. It's fortunate too. It's something I was just talking to somebody last night about spontaneity and just doing things on the fly and having the ability to sort of ad-lib. And it's funny because Paul Heyman just told me, go into the ring, cut the ring announcer off. This is when I was in OVW. So cut the ring announcer off, tell him he's a piece of crap, and then I want you to touch your own, you do your own ring introduction. And so I did it, and I remember I used to announce basketball games when I was in high school, and I would always say the guys, at least when I was calling out our teammates, I would call the last name twice. And I would get people on our side, I would get parents from the other teams that would come over and say, like, we really enjoy your announcing, and it's so funny when you say the last name twice, and blah, blah, blah. So I was just literally in the ring, and I did my little introduction, and then it just clicked in my head, and I said my last name twice. I think that night I wrestled Brent Albright, and we did a 30-minute match. It was like a 30-minute Iron Man. And I got back through the curtain, and everybody was like, I didn't hear, man, that was a great technical match. You guys put on a clinic out there. It was, man, when you said your last name twice, all the boys in the locker room popped. And that's what it was. That's what it took for me to, 5 weeks later, I was on TV. I was making my debut for WWE. But it was like, that's what it took to break me through.
Yeah.
So, crazy.
You're like, oh, I guess I didn't have to work that hard in the last 30 minutes. I could have just sold it over with that first 10 seconds.
Exactly.
It's, you talked about the locker room and the guys giving you kind of a hard time about that there. Talk about, I guess, the difference in the locker rooms a little bit, because you were on SmackDown kind of when they were building that brand, and then when you went over to TNA, you left with guys that also kind of made a name for themselves in WWE at that time, with Bobby Lashley and like MVP kind of rolling over there as well. Did that help? Or what are, differences, similarities between the locker rooms in general with TNA and WWE?
Well, I believe that pretty much anywhere you go, the locker room's a great environment. That's been my experience. All the boys in the WWE were fantastic. Now, when I got there, things were, it was right at the tail end of an era of guys that really policed their own and sort of, I think there was a lot more hazing and stuff like that took place. Fortunately, I was never really hazed, but I was witness to some stuff that, grown men crying and things like that. And, but for the most part, everybody's cool. Especially at TNA, I think there's just no, WWE, I've seen guys walk around on eggshells. Like, everybody's worried that they're going to lose their job tomorrow. You never know. Everybody's on edge all the time. And there's sort of this jealous type of environment that's I think, to some degree encouraged, because they want you to be competitive with each other. And at TNA, it's just, we're competitive, but it's you know, like you're competitive with your own teammates, kind of. Yeah. You know, and we work, everybody works to help each other. And I don't know, it's just, it's really hard to sort of get any type of heat in the TNA locker room, because everybody just gets on with everybody. And, yeah, I mean, it's just, I had so much fun in TNA in the locker room, and just no stress. And there was one time, actually, there was a time where, like I said, when I was in WWE, there was all this sort of hazing, and if somebody screwed up, somebody was perceived to be a certain way, guys would come down on it. They'd kick guys out of the locker room, tell them they're going to change in the hallway from now on, do stuff to their bags. I saw one guy get, he pissed somebody off, and so he came back from his match, and his gear bag was in the middle of the shower with all the shower heads burned, hitting his bag, and they had dumped about looked like a gallon of shampoo in the bag. So, you know, his knee pads, his spare knee pads were swirling around the drain. You know, you had stuff like that. But so there was one time where a guy had just come into TNA, and he was sort of being perceived as a kind of an arrogant prick, because he didn't really talk to anybody. You'd see him on his phone a lot. He wasn't sitting, you know, one of those things that we try to do is sit around the monitor and sort of support each other and pay attention to the show. And this guy would just get done with his match and go back to the locker room. You know, he's been there for a minute. And so I started hearing all these sort of talks around the locker room, like, hey, we need to do something to this guy. We need to have wrestlers court, or, you know, and it was starting to get to the point where it was like, I almost felt like these guys were going to encourage the type of behavior that I was used to when I first got to WWE. And I just said, I'm going to handle this by myself. And I went and I grabbed him one day, and I took him with me, and we went and sat down and had a cup of coffee. And I just said, look, man, I said, it is extremely hard. It's virtually impossible to get heat in this locker room, and tell how you've done that. And I said, here's what people think. And I said, you know, what's the deal? And it turned out he wasn't being a prick. He didn't mean to be that way. He's just a shy guy. You know, some people are able to, when they get in front of the camera, they turn it on, mm-hmm. and they're able to perform and talk and look like they're gregarious. And then they get behind the scenes and they're not. They're actually introverts. And that's all it was this guy was just misunderstood. And so we talked about it. We talked about a way to sort of fix that. And we, you know, crisis diverted. But that's the sort of thing I think that's what I always liked about TNA, and always wanted to make sure that it stayed that way. Because I didn't want it to go down the path of, okay, we're going to rip this guy, and we're going to do something to his bag, we're going to be mean to him. So.
And it seemed like, you know, just hearing stories and hearing shoot interviews and whatnot, it seems like, you know, WWE, if someone doesn't like you and that wrestler is in position of, you know, being one of the top guys in the company, if they don't like you, it's almost not, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's very, very hard for you to get ahead yourself and for you to build your character when you have one of the top guys, you know, talking bad about you behind your back. It's almost, you know, vindictive. And when you hear about the TNA locker room, it's more, you know, close-knit. You know, guys take care of stuff, you know, the way it's supposed to be, man to man. And you don't hear kind of like that, you know, those stories from TNA like you do in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the way that I was always. I mean, the guys that trained me told me, if you have a problem with one of the boys, you don't do it in public. You don't do it in the gorilla position. You act like everything's okay, and then you pull that guy into a side room or pull him into the shower if you have to. And if you guys got to duke it out, you got to duke it out, but don't do it publicly.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the way that it is in TNA.
Which is good to hear, because there's a lot of great guys in TNA, a lot of great wrestlers. The talent is there. And obviously, when people talk competition with WWE, some maybe don't view TNA as competition, but the state of wrestling, and I want to get your opinion about that. The state of wrestling is almost and WWE is more family friendly now. There's not really any blood. There's no edgy characters nowadays. It's more geared towards kids. And in this world, it's PC, and you do a podcast called Push the Button, and you hit on a lot of topics, not wrestling, but in the world, politics and whatnot. But it's almost a shame, because wrestling, I think, should be edgy, and it should be that line of believable and fake. It should not be blurred. It should be a definite. Okay, wrestling is wrestling. Wrestling should not be sports entertainment. Wrestling should be wrestling. It shouldn't be catering to the kids. But what's your view on the state of wrestling right now? Is it more towards? Do you like that it's more geared towards kids, or do you believe that hey, we need to go back 20 years and kind of get away from all this sports entertainment?
I don't know how. I've always had a hard time trying to figure out how you make a show about guys that are so pissed off at each other that they want to fight each other, that they want to do really bad things, that they'll beat each other up in the locker rooms and that kind of stuff. And you've got, these beautiful half-naked women thrown into the mix. And to me, I don't understand how you make that into a PG product. I mean, obviously it's being done, but it's sort of I like an edgier product. I really do. And I think the world does too, because if you look at the hottest shows on television, or just within the last 5 to 10 years, the hottest shows, Sons of Anarchy, freaking Breaking Bad, all House of Cards, and Orange is the New Black, and these are all edgy sort of shows. And the thing about wrestling to me is, especially back in the Attitude Era, was that not everybody was super edgy. There were still a few characters that were tame, but wrestling is like ice cream. I always say it's like Baskin Robbins ice cream. There's a different flavor for everybody, and everybody likes a different flavor. And I don't want to just see edgy, but I also don't want to just see PG. When two guys are yelling at each other, gosh darn it, you made me so angry the other day. Like, that's just not the way guys talk to each other. Darn it.
Fiddlesticks.
Yeah. I just, I was listening to Vince Russo talk to Steve Austin about this the other day on his podcast. Vince was on Steve's podcast. He was talking about this particular thing. He said something about the new OJ Simpson show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I listened to the same podcast.
People versus OJ or whatever. And so that this is on primetime television, right? On one of them.
Yeah, it's on FX.
Networks.
Yeah.
So he said that at the end of an episode where Marsha Clark finds out that Johnny Cochran is going to be the attorney, or is going to be on the team, and now she knows it's going to be about race and all this other stuff. And the very last thing we see on the show is just her expression on her face, and she says, "Motherfucker." And, this is on television. One of those, 7 words that George Carlin said you can't ever say on television.
Yeah.
And that's same time slot as Raw, and that's what we're up against. I just think that there's got to be an edgier product. I like an edgier product, obviously, as you heard from my rant over in Scotland.
It's, another show to even bring it further the point is on ABC. Women all over the country love watching The Bachelor. And this is a show where at certain points the guy is sleeping with multiple women and they've got microphones and everything. But the WWE or anybody's can't be edgy, Yeah. It's like that's on a main network in prime time, like you said. That's edgier than anything else they're putting out right now.
Yeah. No, and I'm going to just let you guys know something. Not only do many women around the country love The Bachelor, but this fucking guy loves The Bachelor.
Not afraid to admit it either.
That is my guilty. I love that show. I love The Bachelor and The Bachelor. It's so stupid. It really is. Because, let's be honest, these people are going on these just extraordinary. Most people, 99% of the people in the entire world will never go on one date like that, like they put these people on. They're like these magical storybooks, very, like dates. And first of all, not only are they doing that, but these people have known each other for how long does the filming take? 10 weeks, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's maybe 10 weeks to film all of it.
And I mean, like, after the first week, sometimes after the first night, these women are sobbing. Just crocodile tears. I see myself with him. Like, no, you don't. You're on TV. But
who knew?
How many times have you seen somebody go on a date with the Bachelor or the Bachelorette and say, you know what, I really wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
You never see that. They all act like
it's love.
I got to marry this person. I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. Holy shit.
That's not how it really works? You were opening my eyes to so many things here today. You told me that wrestling is still, there's a difference between wrestling and real life, and now you're telling me that the Bachelor and Bachelorette isn't real?
I think maybe that worked back in the 20s and 30s. You hear about, like, my grandma and grandpa went on one date, and they fell in love with each other, and then they pen palled each other while in the war. They've been married for 60 years, but nowadays I don't think that stuff happens.
I gotta cancel my helicopter reservations for this Friday night. Then the date I had.
And it's funny too because WWE Studios movies that they put out movies, and obviously you have starred in a WWE studio production. There's fighting, there's blood, there's gunshots, there's violence,
sure.
There's pretty ladies, but the actual product that WWE puts out is the absolute opposite of what their movies portray. It's just I know the ratings haven't been the same for over a decade ever since more PG, and I know there's sponsors involved because they are paying the bills and you are a publicly traded company. You get all that, but geez, sometimes it's just not believable. It's insulting to probably wrestling fans that are above average fandom that understand that lived through the 90s, early 2000s, and when stuff is happening even nowadays, it's just insulting because you're a smart wrestling fan but almost it's like common sense stuff. It's like, how can someone not see a man running at a car ready to beat you up? Wouldn't you run the other way? It's mind-boggling sometimes.
and I mean, I will say that I think we're not just casual observers, and I think that is a majority of their audience. I don't think a majority of WWE's audience I think TNA's fans are pretty diehard.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
these people are going to watch wrestling. They watch all the wrestling, right?
Right.
But I think we may not agree with it, but it obviously works to some degree. To enough of a degree that they are a successful company that continues to be the number one company in professional wrestling by far. And but I'm not a billionaire. So that's obviously his decision, Vince's decision, Stephanie's decision. I think we disagree with it just because we just love wrestling and we love what we grew up with. And we will always be hypercritical of everything that goes on in the ring. I mean, I can hardly even watch today just because I'm just so critical of everything. I'm critical of my own stuff, though, too. It's not like
Right.
what the worst things to do is for me to sit down and watch a match that I was involved in because I just take it apart. But I pick apart everything else, too.
Do you think? I guess one question I want to ask is, TNA it almost has the advantage from a lower viewership standpoint that they can push that envelope and be a bit edgier. So with a lot of people saying they miss that out of WWE, are you kind of surprised that more of an audience hasn't recognized that they're able to do it yet?
Yeah, well, because they don't do it, and that's the thing. They have a very great opportunity to be able to fill that void, to fill that vacuum that WWE is leaving open. They've said we're PG. That's it. Okay. Again, if I was running a wrestling company, I would fill that void. I would do something. I wouldn't have to necessarily have that. Look, I'm not going to just go blue for the sake of going blue, and just be edgy and violent and just for the sake of it. But
right,
so much that you can do, and I think that would draw viewers. I really do. If TNA started to, I wish they would do it. Just start being edgy. And when we were on Spike, it was starting to sort of go that way because Spike at one point just said, like, we're the man's network.
Yeah.
And that was when I was able to, they had to get it approved, but I went out one night. I had always said, interestingly enough, I started doing this promo when I got this catchphrase when I was down in OVW, where I would finish off the promo saying, nice guys finished last, thank God I'm an asshole. And when I got to WWE, and I was there, I debuted, had a couple matches, and then the third week that I was there, Johnny Ace pulled me aside and said, Vince wants to have a meeting with you. So I went into this room. It was me, Vince, Johnny, Stephanie, and Kevin Dunn. And it was sort of like an interview. What do you think about this? This is where they changed my name. And he said, do you have any catchphrases or anything like that? And I said, I told him that one. And he just looked at me and he said, no, we can't do that. We can't say that. I was like, why not? He goes, because it's a family show and I want families to be able to, and that's just like, can't have that. So, okay. And then when I won Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, the biggest mistake of my life, or one of the biggest mistakes of my life, was Michael Hayes came up to me and said, after you win the Money in the Bank, you're going to get interviewed, and we want you to have your Austin 316 moment there. We want you to say, come up with some kind of something that'll stick in people's mind. And I said, I will say, nice guys finished last, thank God I'm an asshole. And I was told again, nope. Now, hindsight, they always say it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission, because once I asked for permission and they told me no, I was forbidden from saying it, even if it would have worked, which I think it would have. But so So fast forward that I'm in TNA, and I go out and I said it one night, and the crowd popped for it. And then the next night we did TV, Vince Russo had given me, he always just give me bullet points. And he had written something about, I was doing something with Jeff Hardy. I was tagging with Jeff Hardy, or I was wrestling against Jeff Hardy. And he always, he's calling his fans the creatures of the night tonight. I said, this was a live promo. And I said, Jeff Hardy has his fans. He calls them the creatures of the night. Well, I got my own fans, and I call them Anderson's assholes. And immediately, the entire crowd at the top of their lungs started chanting, "We are assholes. We are assholes." And I would get that every time I came out. And I would just say, like, hey, I'd come out, I'd grab the microphone, and I would say, how many assholes we got in the building tonight? And everyone would and just imagine that with the WWE machine behind it, and the marketing universe, So, yeah. I don't remember how we got on that topic, but did I answer your question at all?
It's a great story.
You did, yeah. We were talking about the difference of, why, the edge, I guess, why doesn't TNA be more edgy? Yeah. And you kind of went over with there.
Oh, and then I was going to say, okay, so then it had to get approved, and that I could continue saying that. And they Spike approved it. It would have to be only for the second hour, and I was the only guy that was allowed to say asshole. And, it worked. It worked for a long time. I would go on house shows. I would do house shows, do the same kind of stuff, get a great reaction from it. The crowd would be chanting, "We are assholes." And then at some point I was told, well, you can't say that anymore. And I was like, well, why not? Well, I just don't want you to say it anymore. We're going to try to go to a more family-friendly product. And I remember hearing about the conversation. So in the creative production meeting, there was only the guy from Spike that would sit in on the meetings. And it was basically everybody in creative and everybody in the office sitting on this table, and basically, hey, make sure that your people don't say these words that they didn't even want us to say freaking or frickin'. That was verboten. And at some point, the Spike rep, I guess, raised his hand and said, just so you know, we don't care about any of that, and you guys can even say fuck, we'll just bleep it out. But so Spike just really didn't care. That was just an internal decision by TNA. But I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that's what it is. That was their decision.
I have to ask you. We're talking about the good old day, Attitude Era, and being able to say what you want. But are wrestling now? Are you surprised that in 2016 that Triple H put the strap on himself and is now champion going into the biggest pay-per-view of the year? Is that surprising to you at all?
No.
We figured that would be.
There's a pause. This means he thought that answer out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. At this point, though, I don't see it as. I really don't think it's him holding anybody down. I think it's him giving somebody a rub.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly don't think like Triple H is sitting in the locker room saying, or sitting at home with Stephanie and saying, like, man, I'd love to be champ one more time. Like, I just got to have one more run. I just don't think that's his mentality. I think it's more of a giving thing. It's, hey, he's been a significant player in WWE, one of the top tier players ever in that company, and he's going to pass that on to somebody else. And I think it's more of that scenario, if that makes sense.
I agree. I think it's more of a placeholder, and there's injuries going on. The champ, Seth Rollins got injured, so they had to do something. And, a storyline of having the underdog like a Roman Reigns, go after the title. I mean, so I get what you're saying. It's probably a placeholder, trying to build someone else up. But it's, I guess my other question would be, when a guy like Roman Reigns, who is supposed to be a face, a good guy, getting cheered, and I'm sure it's happened when you are on a roster, either TNA or WWE, when they're trying to push a guy or they're trying to, give them the to be a big time superstar, but the crowd is just not having it. The crowd is just not having the guy that they're forcing to be a good guy or even a bad guy, and they are going totally the opposite way of what the organization wants. How is it from a wrestler's perspective when you're going out there, you're supposed to say these lines and be a good guy, but geez, the crowd wants you to be bad, and they want to boo you, and they want you to react to that. Is that, as a performer, is that probably the toughest position you could probably be in?
Well, see, like, I love stuff like that, but the unfortunate thing is right now, those wrestlers are not able to sort of flip the script on the fly, and they're told, I have to go out there and say this, and this. And, there's a way of diffusing those situations. I mean, comedians do it all the time with hecklers, right? If somebody stands up in the audience and thinks that they're going to hijack the show, and the comedian ends up turning it around on the hijacker, the would-be hijacker. And the thing is that the wrestlers aren't able to do that now. So it kind of sucks because, in that situation, if you peel all the layers back and you bring it down to just the bare bones, and the reality is that guy is an employee of a company and he's being told what to do. And it's just like any other job that, if you work at McDonald's and you're cooking burgers or whatever, and they tell you, hey, we want you to go, and somebody just threw up in the bathroom and threw up all over the place and pooped all over the floor and the wall and everything. We want you to go in there and you got to clean that up. You have a choice. You can either tell your boss to pound sand up his ass, or you can go in there and be a good employee and do what you're told. And, you have a decision to make. Do I want to work here or don't I want to work here? Yeah. Because if I don't, somebody else is going to just step right in line. The guy right behind me is just going to, I'll do it. And that's the reality of the wrestling business nowadays. And you get, I understand the criticism and stuff like that, and I understand the way people think, but sometimes I don't think people think realistically when they're doling out criticism about, the way that a guy behaves in the ring or whatever. Does that make sense? I mean,
it did. That wasn't from a poor personal experience there, was it? Working at a McDonald's? That was it's a very colorful example.
Well, actually, when I first moved to, I live in Minneapolis, a suburb of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And when I first moved over here, because I wanted to wrestle all the time, I wanted to get as much wrestling experience as I could, and I got a personal trainer job here that I could work Monday through Thursday. But anyway, before that, I didn't have a job. I just came over here, and so basically, one of my buddies hooked me up with this bartending, or it wasn't even bartending, it was bouncing at a bar. And my first night on the job, hey, somebody, you need to go to clean the bathroom. And I went in and somebody had puked all over the sink and in the sink. And it was like you had to pick it out with your fingers.
Oh,
and
my God.
I did it, and then I never went back again. It was like,
model employee. So
yeah.
When we talk about in different people kind of carrying brands and whatnot, can kind of is a nice segue. Two guys who kind of carried the flag for TNA for quite some time, and Bobby Roode and Eric Young are now leaving the company. Do you, having been there with them and knowing these guys, if you could kind of, I don't know, play the fantasy booker, do you foresee where they could go that would maybe be a good fit for them? You know, like a lot of, like Joe, for example, Samoa Joe went to NXT. Do you see a role like that for Bobby or Eric?
Yeah, I see a role on Raw or SmackDown for those guys. I really do. They are tremendous. They're tremendously talented in the ring. They're good guys behind the scenes. They're going to be liked by everybody. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything negative about either one of those two guys. And they're great guys. They're great performers, and they can go anywhere, whether it be WWE or New Japan, or they literally can go anywhere. So, and I think, the situation, I don't know the situation. That even if I did, I'm not at liberty to, give out other people's information or speak for other people. But sure. I would just say those guys have been there for a very long time, and it's probably just time to go. It's probably just time to give something else a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is next for Ken Anderson? What is next for you? Is it, obviously the indie scene and going overseas? Wrestlers can, that could be their living. You can do that without being attached to a major company now. Even, going to Japan, a lot of guys do that. What is next for you? Are you just sitting back and kind of enjoying life right now, waiting for something to come to you, or are you, out there trying to see what's next? Is a WWE return? Would that be possible for you? I mean, what's next for you?
I wouldn't rule any of that stuff out. The unfortunate thing about the wrestling industry is that we're in the dark just as much as everybody else, usually.
Yeah.
About our own careers. I mean, it's just it's a roller coaster ride, and it's like that across the entertainment industry too. And it's always a hustle for everybody. And right now I'm booked all the time. I've got, I think, 6 days off this month, where I spent 10 days in Scotland, did a couple shows. I did some wrestling seminars. I did a Q&A session, and came home for a few days. I went to Chicago. There's a big expo, C2E2. It's like the second biggest comic book convention in the country behind San Diego. I went and did that for 3 days. I'm home until Friday. I leave for Ireland and then England, and I'll be hosting. I've got 6 wrestling shows booked over there, a bunch of training seminars, and I'm hosting a WrestleMania party. Then I come home for 3 days, and I head to Germany for a couple shows. Then I'm home for about a week and a half, and then I head to Australia for 2 weeks. So it's like I'm really, really busy doing all that stuff, and I'm really enjoying the fact that I'm almost my own boss. I take the bookings that I want to, and generally speaking, when I go to a independent show, the promoter just says, "Hey, here's what we want for the finish, but whatever you feel, you're the veteran."
Yeah.
I've got that sort of status now where they just say, like, whatever you feel you want to do, go ahead and do it. And I enjoy that. I like that. We just go out and have fun. And I'm currently looking at starting at a wrestling school here in the Twin Cities. There's absolutely nothing. And it's, at one point, this was such a huge hotbed for wrestling. And there's just nothing here right now. So I'm looking into finding a building, and then I'm going to start a wrestling school here. And I've got some great ideas for how I want to run the school and some things that I want to do. And I'll have guest trainers from time to time and, stuff like that. And at the same time, I'm making sure that I'm keeping in shape. I got my 5-pound dumbbells and I've been jumping on the trampoline because you never know when you get that next one.
Dennis Stamp reference, gold.
Well, I tell you what, there's two people. I'm a fan. I'm a wrestling fan, right? I'm a mark, just like everybody else. I'm such a mark that I decided that I want to actually shave my legs, wear tights and baby oil, and pretend to fight other grown men. I guess that makes us biggest marks, right?
Yeah.
But I don't generally go crazy and turn into a fanboy when I meet wrestlers, even some of the most popular wrestlers of all time, Hogan and Rock and Austin and those guys. The 2 times in my life that I have completely marked out were a couple years ago, about 5-6 years ago. I met Dennis Stamp, and I was just like, after I met Dennis, I was like, if I die in my sleep tonight, I'll be good. Yeah, I was just like, and then most recently, I met the guy who was on Tosh.0. The wrestling is still real to me, Dennis.
Oh man, jeez, wow.
We had the pleasure of meeting Dennis here in Cleveland about a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago. Yeah, he wrestled. He actually was booked. He was
booked. He was booked.
He was booked.
He threw a clothesline.
He did. Yeah.
So it was terrific. You being in Minnesota, I know you're a big Packers fan. It has to be hard being in Vikings country, huh?
The only thing that's really hard, because Vikings fans are such fair weather fans. They really are. They're doing well. They're on board. If not, they don't even watch the games. They don't stick around. They don't tailgate really here that much. But the hardest thing is that I don't get all the games because Minnesota plays at the same time that the Packers do.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I can't watch the game, so I end up having to either find a Packer bar here in Minnesota or in Minneapolis or St. Paul, which there are a ton of them, but sometimes you just want to chill at home and do your own thing. Or I'll have to actually drive into Wisconsin, which fortunately I'm in the very first city across the border between Minnesota and Wisconsin. So I just drive about 10 miles east, find a bar, and usually they have the game on.
There you go.
But that's the hardest thing. But I have never. I hear people all the time, "Well, you live in Minnesota now, so are you still a Packer fan?" You know how they say there's no such thing as a stupid question?
You, sir, are an asshole for questioning that.
But not the correct kind of asshole.
Yeah, not the correct kind of asshole. Well, we're based in we're based in Cleveland, so we have the same kind of fandom, which the Browns haven't won in very, very long, but we're the same kind of fandom as Packers fans.
Different kind of fandom. Packers fans at least have Super Bowl championships. We're loyal just to be loyal.
Are you a Packers owner? Are you one of the multiple owners of the Green Bay Packers?
I have one share.
There you go. That's all that matters. I have a little bit of an out-of-the-box kind of question for you in the future. You've got your Push the Button podcast there and talk about politics and all sorts of different things and issues. And obviously you're a smart guy. You are right there in Minnesota. It happens to be an election year. And there's another former professional wrestler who ended up making a mark in Minnesota as something else. Would Ken Anderson ever get into a political arena?
Possibly, yeah, definitely possible. It's something that I pay a lot of attention to politics. I'm always tuned into what's going on, and it's something that I'm passionate about. I don't know. I see so many people that get into politics with the best intentions, and when they get in, they sort of you either get in step with the way that the system works, or you get ghosted. I mean, you look at Jesse Ventura. Jesse had a ton of great ideas, I think, but because he wasn't willing to play the game, they just, they railroaded him every single time. They would just say, nope, we're not going to vote for your thing, whatever it was, no matter how good it is, because you won't play our political game. So I just think that the system is so messed up, and there's a couple things that drive me nuts about our political system. And I think the two biggest things that we have going against us, and that I just don't see how these will ever change, is senators. There's no term limit. We get these people that are basically elected and then they die in office practically. I mean,
yeah.
John McCain is a senator for like 42 years, and so they're always campaigning. They're not actually just going in and doing what it is that they intended to do. They're always campaigning, so they're always sort of beholden to the people that raise money for them. And that's another piece, is these lobbyists and special interest groups that make a candidate beholden to them no matter what. And I think we got to get rid of that stuff.
How do you feel? How do you feel about possibly if Trump actually, goes on and wins a, presidential election? How do you feel about you at one time wrestled on the same card as Donald Trump at WrestleMania 23 that Trump got involved with the Lashley versus Umaga hair versus hair match? I'm not sure your political views or which way you go and your views on Trump, because everybody has an opinion. But you possibly could be on the same card as presidential election elect here in 2016.
So Kenny King posted something on his Facebook a little while ago. I saw it was a picture of Bobby Lashley. I think Trump was raising Bobby Lashley's hand.
Yeah.
The center of the ring. And Kenny posted or typed underneath it, he said something like, "You could have ended this with a clothesline."
So close.
This is on you. This is on you, Bobby. Something like that. I blame you. So, I think I want to say I feel scared, but I don't know. To me, like, to a certain extent, I feel like the president is literally a figurehead. He's sort of like the Queen of England, where it's not just him. It's like he's got all these other. We have all these other branches. We have three branches of our government. They have equal authority. So you've got the Supreme Court, and then you've got Congress also. So it's not like he's going to get into office and he's going to be this dictator, even though that's the way he's talking at times. Like, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to do this. I'm going to make people do this stuff. Well, no, you're not. You can't.
Right.
That's not the way our system works. And I think, to a degree, some of the stuff he says is taken out of context. When he says that he wants to build this wall between Mexico and the United States, and he wants to shut our borders down, I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think he is as racist as everybody's making him out to be. I don't think that he's sitting there saying, like, I hate Mexicans and all you Mexicans can stay in Mexico. I don't think that's what it is. I think that if you travel to any other country in the world, they have closed borders and they have rules about how you can enter the country, and that's it. Like, you have to follow the rules.
Right.
Here, it's just our borders are so porous that people just come and go as freely as they want to, and in certain situations that they're here, well, you've been here for a while, so you can just stay, kind of thing. You don't get that anywhere. You don't get that in Scotland or England or, well, luckily they're an island, but,
Right. Makes it a little easier.
it makes it a little easier, yeah. But I mean, he says some stuff that is absolutely true. I loved it when early on. I was really happy that he was in, and I remember saying to somebody like, "I hope that he stays in as long as possible." It's for no other reason than to change the game, because he was being so brutally honest that it was forcing all these politicians to have to be honest and have to talk about things that, when he got up on that first Fox News debate, he stood in the center of the stage because he was the front runner at the time still. And he looked to his left and he looked to his right. And he said, pretty much everybody on this stage, I gave money to them and they did stuff for me. Like, you could see everybody start to sweat and kind of adjust their ties a little bit. And you don't normally hear politicians talk like that and just be that blunt and brutally honest about it. And they're like, you declared bankruptcy, you filed bankruptcy. Oh, I didn't personally file bankruptcy. My companies did several times. I used the bankruptcy law to my advantage. I'm a businessman. That's what I do, and people do it all the time. And yeah, it's not a beautiful thing, but it's not illegal, and I would be stupid not to use it. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, is he lying? No, he's telling the truth. So I wanted it to stay in just for that purpose, but now it's like he's saying some really off-the-wall shit. And, I've got friends all around the world, and they're like, are you guys serious? You're really going to hire that guy? Like, I don't know. I don't know, but I think I would rather have him than Hillary Clinton. I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton. I think she's super disingenuous. She looks down upon everybody. She purports to be this, savior of the people. She cares about the people, but you see enough interaction with her. And they've caught her on tape a bunch of times where she's got that fake smile plastered around her face, and she'll talk to somebody in a cafe or something like that, a diner, and then the minute the cameras stop rolling, or she thinks the cameras stop rolling, she's like, let's get the fuck out of here. I hate these people. That's just what. But I don't know. I honestly, I thought for a minute that this may be the first year that I just don't vote because I think they're all terrible. I think all the candidates are terrible.
Yeah.
But
you got to be. This is what I keep saying. Like the old Richard Pryor movie with Brewster's Millions. When he says, "Vote none of the above."
Yeah, yeah. That or I'll maybe write myself in or something like that.
Hey, we'll start that right now. And all fans of This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, write in Ken Anderson for president here in 2016. What do you want your party to be there, Ken? The asshole party.
There you go.
There you go. Representing the assholes, write in Ken Anderson for 2016.
But who would be your vice president?
Vote A. Vice president. MVP.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears, but here real quick, just to get your thoughts on a couple of things. Kurt Angle is a guy. He's just wrapped up his TNA career. It looks like maybe doing a little bit of the Indies, taking some time off. Just reflect back on I guess kind of your time with him. We may see him down the road in WWE. Who knows? It's our opinion. The guy easily belongs in the Hall of Fame. Do you agree with that? And just I guess talk about your experiences with Kurt a little bit.
Who?
Kurt Angle. Come on.
Kurt Angle is. I think he's a cyborg. He's part man, part machine, mostly machine. And just one of the best guys that I know. One of the smartest as far as putting together finishes and putting together matches. And I mean, he just, when you get in the ring with him, he takes you to a different level because it is a constant, you're constantly moving. It's go, 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 go. And I've had so much fun with that guy in the ring. And one of my favorite match to date is the match that I had with Kurt at Lockdown. And he's going into the match. So interestingly enough, normally guys, when they put their matches together, it's done on the day. And except for WrestleMania, those guys will get into a room 5 days before and you sort of start mapping things out. You get to experiment a little bit. They've got a ring in there with some ladders and stuff, so you can try some different stuff out. But for the most part, it's you got a match, you put it together the day of.
Right.
And for most of the matches that I've ever worked with him, I would get to the building and he sometimes 2 weeks prior, he would say, "Yeah, I've got our whole match planned out. Like I figured out what we're going to do in our match." And I remember the first time I ever worked with him, I was like, I thought he was ridding me. I thought he was kidding. I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I've got everything on my notes." He said, "I've got your stuff plugged in there," and literally, we would sit down on the day, and he would have it all written out, just little bullet points, or he would have it memorized. And he would have it memorized in the sense that he's able to know exactly when the crowd is going to react to what they're going to react to. And I heard Rock was like that too. You know, he would literally. Rock was a guy that would call, "I'll punch you 3 times, duck my 4th one, light me," that kind of stuff. You hit me with 2 punches. It's very mathematics. And Kurt's kind of the same way, but at the same time, he would say, if you had anything to add or take away, please feel free to throw it out there. We'll do it. And that's the way it usually went, which is, I got to tell you, as the other performer in the ring, it's very liberating to not have to really worry about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go in there and you're worried about your stuff and making sure that you make his stuff look good, but that's it. That's all you have to worry about. But I remember that day that we did Lockdown, he said to me, first of all, he said, "I'm going to do the moonsault off the top of the cage, but don't tell anybody that we're going to do it." He never told whoever our agent was that day. He never told him that he was going to do that because he would have probably gotten a no.
Yeah.
Remember, it's better to ask for forgiveness.
That's right. That's right.
And then he also said, I don't remember how much time we were given, but I want to say it was like they gave us 18 or something like that. And he looked at me and he said, "I'm just going to tell you right now that we're going to go long. We're going to be way over that." But he goes, "If anything, when we do," he said, "I'll take the heat for it. Don't worry." And we went way over that time. I remember, we weren't even anywhere near to go home. And they told us we were already sort of past our time. And we got to the back, and I still feel bad about it to this day because AJ and Ric Flair were supposed to have a match that night. They had quite a build-up to their little feud. And they shaved like 10 minutes off this match or something like that.
Oh, wow.
AJ and Flair were pissed. They were livid. And you know what? Kurt took every ounce of that heat. He really did. He said he was going to, and he did. And who am I?
Yeah.
I'm not. Who am I to argue with Kurt Angle? So if he says we're going long, we're going long. But no, he's just a phenomenal performer, and obviously a super hard worker. And he's one of those guys that cannot go 50%. He's never a guy that's going to say, like, hey, we're just going to take it easy tonight because it's only a house show. There's not that many people here, and I'm tired and, you know, towards the tail end of my career. But it's, I'm glad, though, that he's going out now instead of hanging on and you know, when you see somebody. I listened to Penn Jillette talk on a podcast recently, and they asked him, the guy asked him, like, well, are you gonna wrap things up soon? Are you gonna continue to do your show? What are you gonna do? And he said, you know, I could be like, I forget who he said, where they ended things right at the exact right time in their career. They were at the peak, and they bowed out. Or he said, I could be like Sinatra, where, you know, Frank Sinatra played way too long. You know,
Yeah.
he was actually kind of shit when he died. He just wasn't the same as he was for all those years. He said, I intend to be the latter of the two, and they're going to have to, you know, drag my ass off the stage. And I'm just glad that Kurt didn't choose to do things that way, because he has such a body of work, right? I mean, he's such an amazing performer that you don't want to see him in any sort of, like, diminished form. You just don't want to see it. So,
Hall of Famer? What do you think? Easy question, right?
yeah.
That goes back to there are no stupid questions, but maybe.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you get out of here, I would be remiss if I did not ask you about one thing that popped up on social media here in the last few days. Noelle Foley's obsession with giving you the purple nurple here, Mr. Anderson. What is that about?
So, you've seen the movie Beyond the Mat, right?
Yeah.
So in that movie, a young Noelle Foley, she was 4 or 5 years old, is asked by her dad in front of the camera, so what's your favorite word? And she, this cute little 4 or 5-year-old girl, said, nipple. And it just always, I don't know, it's part of the movie that just always popped me. And when I first got to WWE, Nick brought Noelle around, and I think at the time she was maybe 13 or 14 years old. And I had told Nick that was something in that movie that just stood out. You know, not the 18 unprotected chair shots from The Rock. You know, all the Jake the Snake smoking crack and stuff like that. It was his daughter saying that her favorite word was nipples. So he popped for it. He kind of laughed about it, and then he said, he pulled her over and said, "Hey, I want you to tell her that." So I told her, and we had a laugh about it. And then 3 years ago, I was at my first C2E2, that expo that I just went through in Chicago.
Yeah.
So comic book and wrestling, video games, all that stuff. And I'm standing behind my booth I'm there with Al Snow and Kevin Nash. And I see this tall, blonde girl, very attractive blonde girl, walking towards me, and she's got this look of recognition on her face. And I'm sort of looking at her like, I sort of recognize her, but I don't know how. So she kept walking towards me, and I put out my hand, and I was like, "How do I know you?" And she was like, "My favorite word is nipple." And I was like, "No way." Mrs. Foley's baby boys, baby girls, all grown up. And so, yeah, we just, something that we always kind of laugh about, joke around about. And so last year, we did almost the very similar picture where she's giving the old purple nurple. So we had to recreate it.
That's great. Anything you want to say to our fans, or anything that we didn't hit on that you want to talk about? Because I feel like
I don't know that anybody in Cleveland's going to be catching any of his shows anytime soon, in Ireland or Australia. That's gonna be a hard ticket for us to grab. But
well, maybe I can do some more viral videos for y'all.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
My co-host and I started this podcast, and it's sort of one of those things that, see, I've always been interested in politics, and I was raised in a Lutheran family, and they had me go to Sunday school and all that stuff, and go to church regularly. I just never really gave it a whole lot of thought, though. But I was always skeptical. And when I got involved with my wife, when I got married to her, it turns out that she is a born-again fundamentalist Christian, and a lot of her friends and family are. And so I started hearing, I'm an unbeliever. And I started hearing from everybody, well, this is something that you're missing out on in your life. You need this, and all this stuff. So me being the good skeptic said, okay, well, I'm gonna actually put some thought into it and do some work. And for about 3 years, I researched. I read every single holy book out there. I have 5 or 6 notebooks filled with notes and discrepancies and questions that I've found and things like that from the Bible, from the Quran, from Bhagavad Gita, all this stuff. And I found that while people were readily willing and able to sort of pontificate to me or proselytize to me, whenever I would ask them, well, what about where it says this really awful thing right here? What about that? And I would just ask questions that I think are perfectly valid questions. I would find that people would tend to not only be turned off by it, but they get pissed off. They stomp out of the room. They throw things. They start to shake. That kind of stuff. And then it comes down to, well, you're not supposed to talk about politics or religion. You're not supposed to talk about it at the dinner table. You're not supposed to talk about it with your friends and family. Well, it turns out, in my opinion, that politics and religion are 2 of the most important things in our lives. I mean, politics affects just about everything that we do. And people at least give lip service to the idea that they put God above everything else, even their families, even their wives. It says so in the Bible that you should put God above your significant others. So if that's the case and that's true, then God damn it, we should be able to at least talk about it. And so basically what I wanted to do was I wanted to say, like, hey, here's a guy or guys, sometimes we'll have guests on, and if David and I tend to agree on a particular topic, we always try to get somebody in that disagrees so we can have that other viewpoint.
Yeah.
And we just sit and talk about it, and we try to show people that, like, look, we can disagree. We can just talk to each other. We can ask any question, every question. We can bring up we can ridicule, not I don't ridicule people, but I'm a big fan of ridiculing ideas. And I think that's okay to ridicule ideas.
Sure.
That's how we don't have segregation anymore,
It gets you to think.
What was that?
It actually gets you to think when you do that. It stops you for a minute. You're like, oh, yeah, okay.
Exactly. And that's just, so basically it's sort of a labor of love for us. It's something that I really enjoy doing. I get to talk about, I actually get to talk about these topics with a person or people who are perfectly okay with having that conversation. And, nothing is taboo. and there are no sacred cows, and we have these discussions. So anyway, long story short, the name of the podcast is called Push the Button, and you can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, or you can go directly to the website, and that's at dvnpe.com, and it's the DVM podcast empire. He's got, I want to say, 20 to 30 other podcasts on his network, and many of them are, whatever the current hot new show is, Gotham, and that kind of stuff. And it's continuously growing. So yeah, just like to get more people to check that out. Obviously,
I don't think we left any stone unturned during this podcast. I think we hit on everything from politics, religion, to wrestling, to your life. Over an hour conversation. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I know you're a busy guy and having having babies. I know your sleep is not like what it used to be. So I really appreciate you staying up late with us and chatting with us. And hey, man, there's AI Wrestling here in Cleveland.
Yeah.
AIW. The independent. Booker T's coming through next month here. A lot of guys come here and wrestle. A lot of guys from Lucha Underground and Ring of Honor.
EC3's home ground here.
Yeah, EC3's home city. We'd love to have you come up and be a part of AIW here in Cleveland, maybe sometime during the summer.
Yeah, I would love to. Absolutely.
We'll set you up with those guys.
Yeah.
No problem.
We'll pass along the note to them.
Sometimes I ring announce. I got some. I don't have any pull there, but I know them. It's okay.
We'd love to have you on. So
you guys look it up. I'll be there.
Nice.
Perfect.
All right, Ken. You can follow him on Twitter. Also, Push the Button podcast, like I said, on iTunes and everywhere you can download podcasts as well. So, Mr. Anderson, really appreciate your time, and love to have you on again, man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Mr. Anderson for coming on the show, being a part, and finally getting him on the show. We've been talking to him for almost a year, and finally able to get him on, and a great interview with him. You can check it out, more interviews from our show. This is AwesomeWrestlingShow.com, also on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, Libsyn, any of your podcast mobile devices. We are on there. You can download, subscribe to us, rate us, leave a comment. But we appreciate you guys listening to the show and our interviews. So thanks to Ken Anderson for coming on. And he talked about Kurt Angle during the interview, a man that he faced in TNA. And Kurt Angle is not with TNA anymore. He's making the indie rounds. He wrestled Rey Mysterio this past weekend, I believe. Or even, what was it? Was it last couple days? I think it was this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah.
Was this a Wednesday we're recording on? Yeah, it was like Saturday.
Yeah, so he wrestled Rey Mysterio. So he's still wrestling, but not in TNA anymore. So, interview today, that came out today, he talks about a possible WB return. And he tried to go back a year and a half ago, which I think we talked about on the show, about him probably coming back, and there was rumors. Yeah. But WWE, he was Angle was just getting over 4 DUIs, getting over his troubles, and I think WB wanted to see him stay out of trouble and see what he can do if he was clean and not and sober, and seeing what he his life, getting his stuff together.
He's got to pass the wellness test like everybody else,
yes. Right? So now that it's been a year and a half, he's not with TNA anymore. Could we see maybe next year or late this year a possible Kurt Angle return to WWE, and if not in the ring, but even maybe possibly being inducted into the Hall of Fame next year, because he is definitely worthy of at least a Hall of Fame induction. But I would not rule out a Kurt Angle return in WWE, which is great.
Yeah, I think a Hall of Fame induction is certainly worthy. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. I mean, this is your first legitimate, Olympic athlete. I was going to say athlete, but everybody's kind of a legitimate athlete for the most part. But the guy won a gold medal in wrestling.
Yeah.
That legitimizes your business, as we talk about kayfabe and all this stuff. Well, how do you make pro wrestling seem legitimate? Well, you have one of the world's greatest actual wrestlers be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that opened the door for a lot of guys. You've always had kind of people in wrestling background, but then it seemed like even more started to pop up after that, right?
Yeah.
Like of Brock Lesnar, and then of course Charlie Haas, Shelton Benjamin come in at that point. Eventually, now you see Dolph Ziggler and all sorts of guys. Just seemed like more and more came up from that, and that's when we started to get more technical. I would even say, but yeah, it's well deserving. I don't know if we'll see him wrestle. We'll see.
Just one more match.
Who do you put him against? Kurt Angle and The Undertaker?
No,
to take over for Sting and The Undertaker?
I hate doing fantasy booking because it could be anybody, but
and you just never know. Yeah. Obviously, as we've seen this year, so many injuries.
I would love to see him go against like a Seth Rollins. I think that
could be fun.
Terrific to see. And I think that obvious choices would be like maybe a Dolph Ziggler, but
what about a great return for Kurt Angle, and then if he's still a heel at this point, Kevin Owens ruining it, of course.
Yeah, but I want to see athletic match.
You want to see that? Yeah,
I love Kevin Owens. We all know he's very athletic for a big man. But
you want to see the technical style.
I want to see technical, and I think him and even maybe if AJ Styles would be a great match to see.
Oh, sure, they had some. They had some excellent matches in TNA.
I think Seth Rollins is one guy that I would love to see him and Angle go at it. So that would be my choice if I had to do fantasy booking. But I think we will see WWE reach out to Angle, and I think you're right. Not for wrestling. If it is, maybe it's like one match or a couple matches here and there. But I definitely think a WWE Hall of Fame induction is definitely in the works for him. So we'll see how that plays out. And he is not with TNA anymore, so who knows what could happen. He could come back and be on TV and do something down the line or plan a match in advance. But it would be huge because a lot of people want to see Kurt Angle at least back in WWE. One more run, and if not for wrestling, but getting recognition for being a Hall of Famer.
Here's my question to you, and I think I posed this last time we thought that there's rumors at least Kurt Angle may be coming back. Kurt Angle comes back, his music hits.
Yeah.
Do the fans chant, "You suck," with his music?
I don't think so, because I think that
it's so hard not to, right?
Yeah, but I think we're past that.
Well, you think they'd be past the what phase?
I don't think people remember that. I don't think the crowd there'd be enough people for it to take off, and I think people would be more excited to hearing the pop of his music than them being so worried to be on key about saying "you suck."
Yeah.
So I don't think that will happen.
You'll get the initial pop instead.
Yeah, you'll get a huge pop. Yeah. So, but hopefully, hey, I would love to see that before he officially wraps it up with his wrestling career. One more run in WWE and at least a Hall of Fame induction. Speaking of a WB Hall of Famer, one that is feeling good right now, feeling fine, feeling richer, feeling the little pockets a little bit heavier, and that is the immortal Hulk Hogan, who got a big win in court, defeating Gawker, body slamming Gawker, and pinning for the 1, 2, 3 for all the way to $115 million.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Hulk
Hogan's pockets are always feeling pretty heavy, brother, because Hulk Hogan's got a 10-inch penis. However, Terry Bollea's pockets are feeling much heavier now.
Yeah, Terry, HH.
Feels good, dude.
You want to sponsor the show, Terry? You throw some money our way, man?
I got to see what Linda says first. She's going to be coming after me. I know it, dude.
Yeah. See, and then
never stops.
They did another, I think it was Monday, some of the editors owe Hogan an extra, I think it was like $25 million. So he's going to get $140 million from this.
He's going to get a lot.
He's not going to see all of it, obviously, with lawyer fees and whatnot. And I'm sure, Linda, like you said, will be.
Did you see that she did TMZ or somebody caught up with her?
Yeah.
She was pissed.
Oh. She wants all the money.
I think so. I think that she thinks she took him for everything he had. And now he's right back up again.
Now he's right back up. When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside.
When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside.
$115 million. Terry H.H. getting a big win, so he's going to be waiting by the window, waiting for the check to come via the mail from Gawker. And Gawker might be out of business, man. They might go under. That's a lot of money.
They got I don't know how this stuff works. I haven't been ever involved in it, but you got to believe that if they create like a settlement, there's got to be like a settlement plan, right?
You can call J.G. Wentworth and get a structured settlement today.
Yeah. He could, and then J.J. Owens just gets it. Yeah.
There you go.
So that's got to be.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have not been awarded $115 million before, so we don't know how it works.
I haven't been awarded $15 before.
So maybe it's like, a year, and he gets $10 million a month or something, maybe, or
I don't know. Over 5 years, maybe he gets all that money.
Yeah, still. I mean, I think what do you take, the lump sum? It's like winning the lottery. Do you take the lump sum?
Yeah.
Or do you do the monthly?
payout?
Yeah, the monthly.
Ooh, I don't know. It's a good question.
I think
If you're him, you take the lump sum.
yeah, because you're old
At that age.
and if it's you and I, we just take it monthly, and
Yeah.
you're living well for 30 years.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Yeah, you would hope they pay overtime.
Yeah. So Hogan, winner in the courtroom, and will this lead to a WWE return?
Probably.
He wants to get back in WWE. He
course
wants
he
to be
does.
back on TV. Obviously, you got to fill that ego, brother. And you know what? I think we talked about this, on our prediction show, predict the year. I think we both see Hogan back in WWE before the year's over.
We did. I don't know if we thought he'd be back for WrestleMania.
Right.
There's still that chance.
There's still a chance. God.
I hope not. You know what I think he should do with the money? Throw it out for some hospital bills for Nick's friend.
There you go.
Do something good with it. If you're on the PR patrol now,
Yeah.
right, and you're him,
Yeah.
and one of the things is like you just went through this whole thing,
Yeah.
being called like racist, and your penis is everywhere, and you have to
Yeah.
talk about it. The good man TB, not HH.
Yeah.
TB should be
TB.
able to set up a nice little
TB.
fund for Nick's kid, and put that one kind of to rest, and that your family really does care.
And if you don't know what TB is, Hogan tweets. He ends his tweets with initials, and most of the time it's HH for Hulk Hogan, but he also tweets as Terry Bollea, which is TV. So which if you're getting a character, or you're getting a genuine tweet. So look for that on his Twitter. But he's been celebrating on Twitter with his tweets, tweeting out photos of him dropping a leg on Gawker. So he's celebrating. I'm sure he's waiting by the window for that check to come in the mail as we speak. So Terry H.H. getting a big win in court. So happy for him. Kudos to him.
Can't wait to see this new yellow car.
Yeah. You know what? After what he owes and everything, I'm sure he's only going to... okay. Well,
I just can't believe they got all the money.
yeah.
We talked about on here. Compared to what Aaron Andrews went through
Yeah.
and what he went through.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. Crazy how the world works. Speaking of other little news topics we want to talk about before we wrap this baby up, 15 years ago today, I'm recording on the 23rd, WWE officially bought WCW, and then 3 days later, right here in Cleveland, Ohio, it was Raw. Steve and I were both there, both as teenagers.
Didn't even know each other yet.
Didn't even know each other, and we watched WWF at the time by WCW officially, and you had Shane be the official.
So I loved it.
Yes, storyline. And that day, professional wrestling was never the same as we know it, and it started one of the shittiest angles ever in professional wrestling, the evasion angle.
Because they didn't bring anybody good over.
It was terrible.
Aside from
awful.
Booker. Booker was like the main name.
Yeah, it was awful. Teamed up with ECW. It was just terribly booked.
It was smart of them to team up with ECW
Yeah.
because of the fact that so many of those guys were already there.
Yeah, but that's what
Because otherwise they would have had nothing.
you should have had. You should have had Hall and Nash. You should have had Hogan.
Yeah.
Sting. You should have had Steiner's. They should have had the WCW guys be the main, and I would have loved to see a Hogan. Hogan, Nash, Hall, Sting, Flair versus Undertaker, Kane, The Rock, Jericho, Angle, Stone Cold too. That would have been a hell of a match, but instead we got Mark Jindrak and Gregory Helms, which are great wrestlers, but
Yeah.
come on now.
And everything kind of fizzled out for the guys that did end up coming back later on.
Yeah.
Steiner wasn't there very long.
No.
The NWO angle was fun when that happened.
Yeah.
Because it gave us The Rock and Hogan.
Yeah.
But again, then that ends up
That was-
ran for like a year, maybe.
Yeah,
year
then
and
you
a half?
had the Big Show and Booker T, the NWO. Shawn Michaels was the leader with Kevin Nash.
Booker T was the only one that had really a long, solid WWE career off of that.
Yeah, he was great. His feud was Stone Cold. Then you had
Goldberg comes in later on.
Yeah,
for
The Rock.
A year maybe.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and then you had WCW WWE angle. You had Stone Cold go to WCW and Kurt Angle tease that. So you had hardcore WWF guys having to give some firepower to WCW. It was just a terrible, terrible angle. And obviously Vince is going to go over and have Team WWF win. So it's it was going to happen, but still, in reality they should have shelled out some big money for the guys to come. And Hall and Nash, I think Hogan, they're under contract. They're going to get paid regardless. So they sat at home and didn't do anything and still got paid.
Yeah,
but it would have been nice if if Vince would have opened his pocketbooks and pay for these guys to come back, because they would have probably, the ratings would have gone through the roof. And,
but nuts, yeah.
Yeah, and who knows what would have happened. But
what's fun to look back on that though and go all full circle. It's, everybody wants Shane to turn heel and just end up being a part of the Authority or however it should happen now. But people, it's interesting you say that because people forget a little bit. 15 years ago, but one of our greatest memories for WWF and wrestling at the time was Shane McMahon going against his father that night. Yeah. Turning the tables. His contract didn't say Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yeah. But even that was kind of shitty because...
that was great. I remember loving that.
I mean, it was... I just loved WCW, and I thought having Shane beat WCW, I thought it was just shitty.
And I thought it would have been fun, like we've sat here and hammered home. It would have been fun if a lot of those guys stayed, and instead of having like a Raw SmackDown brand split, we still had like the WWF WCW split, and it was Shane and Vince kind of clashing in that manner.
I don't think Shane should have been involved at all. I think it should have been, if anything, going against Vince, it should have been like a Flair, Sting, kind of like the wrestlers, going against evading WWF. And not having a leader, if anything, Flair should have been the leader of that. But then again, we sit back now. Obviously we thought it was very cool when it was happening, but looking back,
we also thought it was going to go more the way of what we've been talking, than how it actually did.
Yeah, so
almost like the Stars if they would have gone like Rogue, right?
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
Yeah, and do that, and then they had that match. They had Buff Bagwell.
Buff came in.
Yeah, they had WCW announcers. They had TNA, and they had WCW logo and stuff like that. It was shitty. The crowd shut all over it. Buff Bagwell was never welcome back after that. It was terrible. So, hey, that was 15 years ago. Here, this week, being here in Cleveland, Ohio, 15 years.
Wow.
Woo.
They were in Panama City, Florida.
Yeah, right? The WCW last Nitro. So yeah, WCW, that's 15 years ago for all you wrestling historians. All right, let's wrap it up with a final tidbit. A man that I'm very, very excited to see have a WrestleMania match. A man that has not gotten much TV time in the past couple of years. A former U.S. champion. A man that was way over. Woo, 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 you know it. Zack Ryder. In a WrestleMania match, will get a WrestleMania entrance.
So excited for this.
And he is going to be in the ladder match, fighting for the IC title among other superstars. But I'm pumped for Zack because...
Are you pumped or are you hyped?
I'm not hyped. I'm not doing that. Zack needs to get away from that. Hopefully this leads to more of a return for Zack on WWE TV. We might as well say it. If you watch SmackDown, if you read the spoilers... Spoiler alert, mute it right now, but Zack Ryder is left standing when it comes to the segment with all the IC competitors competing for the title.
Which means he's going to get destroyed at WrestleMania
Probably.
usually. But it's still great.
Still great.
Love having him have his moment.
Love it. So, yeah, hopefully Zack Ryder leaves as IC champion. And we talked about this before the show. Zack Ryder has not had a lone entrance, WrestleMania entrance. And that's big because... He has been in the Battle Royals. He was in that SmackDown versus Raw Teddy Long versus John Laurinaitis at WrestleMania 28. And he's been involved in the Battle Royals where guys are already in the ring. So he hasn't really had that moment of stepping out on the stage as the music being played, seeing the crowd, and it's going to be a big one down in Dallas.
I'm going to pop. I'm going to pop when I hear the woo, woo, woo.
It's going to be great. It's going to be terrific. So
I teach my nieces and nephews that.
Yeah. Woo, woo, you know it. Yeah.
They love it.
So, yeah, hopefully Zack Ryder gets some love at WrestleMania and hopefully does some cool spots. So kudos to Zack Ryder.
Can't wait for him to do the Rough Rider off the ladder.
Yeah. That'd be
Sweet.
great. That'd be terrific. The broski boot.
Yeah.
That'd be terrific. I can't wait. Cannot wait for Zack Ryder getting his WrestleMania entrance and also being a part of a big match.
Which, we couldn't have been more wrong about one thing in our predictions from last year when we said, who would we see at WrestleCon going into this year? This is great. Do you know how excited I am to have been wrong about that?
Yeah, but here's the thing. If it wasn't for the injuries to half the roster,
you can't, right.
We probably wouldn't see Zack Ryder.
That's fine, but listen, the world works.
And if Andrea Neville wasn't injured,
ways.
would we see?
No, probably not.
Yeah, so.
But
hey, we'll take it.
Can't help how things fall here, okay?
Yeah. Who knows? This could be Zack Ryder's last WrestleMania, too.
Oh, come on. That's just giving us a high note for him.
WrestleCon 2017.
No. Main event WrestleMania 2017.
Ziggler versus Ryder.
WrestleMania Orlando.
Ryder or Riot. Ryder Mania, running wild.
WrestleMania Citrus.
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait for Zack Ryder. So, all right, we'll wrap it up. Thanks to Ken Anderson for coming on. Next week, we'll have our WrestleMania preview show. Both heading down to the Big D in Texas, and we'll be previewing WrestleMania, giving our predictions, and doing that next week. So we really appreciate you guys listening, being part of the show. Follow us on Twitter at TIA Wrestling. Also Instagram, Facebook, all the links are on our site. This is AwesomeWrestlingShow.com is the website. Like I said before, thanks to Ken Anderson for coming on and being a part of the show. And we look forward to seeing you, hopefully, in the Big D. And if not, listen to our podcast. Like I said, really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to us. And also, go to AIWrestling.com. WB Hall of Famer Booker T will be in the Cleveland area April 8th. So, AIWrestling.com for tickets and to be able to meet Booker T. Sucker.
Sucker!
We'll talk to you guys next week. This is Awesome Wrestling Show. See ya.